My school changed overnight when Brian Davidson joined my class. I befriended him despite everyone else avoiding him like he carried something contagious. My mom called him dangerous. She rushed to the school to demand my seat be moved. Brian's eyes told me everything: hurt, confusion, hope. 1 week later, his mother Catherine is facing charges. Brian is free, and the town has to face the truth they refuse to see. I remembered the first time Brian smiled. He split his peanut butter sandwich with me at lunch. It seemed normal, just 2 kids, but the teacher froze when she saw us talking. Later, my mom whispered warnings. I thought she was overreacting, but the bruises I glimpsed on Brian's arms told another story. I didn't understand then, but something was wrong. That lunch wasn't just food, it was trust, and it cost him more than I knew. At recess, Brian sat alone on the swings. I joined him, kicking my feet awkwardly. He said nothing but gave me a bracelet made of string. "So you don't forget me," he mumbled. I wore it proudly. That night, my parents argued. My mom said I was getting too close to that family. My dad stayed quiet. I kept the bracelet under my pillow. Brian's silence was loud, but no one else seemed to hear it. When Brian brought a photo of an old scar on his leg, I knew it wasn't an accident. He said it happened when his mom locked him in the basement. I showed my dad. He looked shaken, but warned me not to get involved. The next day, the photo was gone from my desk. Mrs. Natterson told the class it was inappropriate to share lies. Brian didn't come to school. I started feeling like the enemy. Mrs. Natterson asked me to stay after class. She said Brian had issues, and I should focus on kids like me. Her voice was calm, but her words made my stomach twist. I asked what issues, and she just smiled. That night, I searched for Catherine Davidson online. Nothing but charity events and PTA photos. My mom saw the tab open and slammed the laptop shut. "Drop it," she snapped, but silence made me more curious. During group work, I saw Brian's hand shaking. I passed him a note. "Are you okay?" He nodded but didn't smile. Later, someone turned in my note to Principal Morrison. He called me in and warned me about spreading dangerous narratives. I asked if anyone talked to Brian. He said, "That's not your concern." I left his office burning inside. Brian wasn't just alone. He was being erased. And I was next if I didn't shut up. My dad found Brian sleeping in his father's truck by the park. He brought them blankets and snacks. Catherine must have found out because the next morning, someone slashed our car tires. My mom blamed my dad. She screamed that we were endangering ourselves. I sat at the top of the stairs, listening, frozen. Brian wasn't at school that week. When he came back, he looked even thinner, but no one said a word. That silence screamed. I started recording audio when Brian and I talked. I captured him whispering about a locked door, the chain on the inside, and crying through nights. I played it for my mom. She said it sounded rehearsed. My dad said we needed help. That night, Brian's father came to our house, eyes wide, pleading. He said Catherine was taking Brian out of town. We called child services. They said without bruises or direct evidence, there was nothing they could do. My dad and I followed Catherine's car one evening. She drove to an abandoned storage facility. We waited. Hours passed. Finally, she came out alone. My dad called the police. They hesitated, no warrant, no cause. So I stepped out with my phone and went live. "If anything happens to me, it's her," I said. That video got shared fast. The cops couldn't ignore it. They broke into the unit. Brian was there, shivering, hungry, and silent. At the station, Catherine blamed everyone, her ex, me, even Brian. She called us liars. The officers didn't buy it. They saw the bruises, the storage logs, the food receipts. Brian barely spoke, but when asked if he felt safe with his mom, he shook his head. That single motion shifted everything. My parents held hands. Even my mom had tears. The detective told me my live stream forced their hand. "You did more than most adults ever do." At school, whispers turned to stares. Some kids clapped when I walked in. Others avoided me like I was radioactive. Mrs. Natterson kept her eyes down. Principal Morrison called an assembly, but said nothing about Brian. I stood anyway. "We were wrong," I said. We looked away. The room went silent. A few teachers clapped. Some parents pulled their kids out of class that week, but Brian sat beside me, bracelet still on my wrist. The courtroom was packed. Catherine wore pearls like it was prom night. Her lawyer tried to paint her as stressed and misunderstood. Then Sarah Holloway, her old roommate, took the stand. She cried. She described bruises, shouting, locked doors. She had pictures dated time, stamped irrefutable. The judge's face didn't flinch. Catherine's calm cracked. She shouted, "They're lying," and had to be removed. Brian gripped my hand tightly. I finally exhaled. We weren't alone in the truth anymore. The jury's verdict took only 3 hours. Guilty. Catherine's face crumbled. She shouted again, blaming Brian, calling him ungrateful. The bailiff pulled her away. Brian sobbed into his dad's chest. I looked around. People stared at me like I'd done something extraordinary, but I just couldn't pretend anymore. My mom apologized quietly. My dad squeezed my shoulder. "You saved him," he whispered. I didn't feel heroic, just relieved. For once, the truth didn't get buried. That night, Brian slept over. We made pillow forts and ate cereal straight from the box. He laughed for the first time in weeks. My parents watched from the doorway. My mom handed him a blanket without flinching. Later, as we lay on the floor, Brian whispered, "Thank you." I didn't answer. I just handed him the bracelet back. "Keep it," he said. "It's yours too now." I tied it tighter around my wrist and smiled. The next week, the school board held a private meeting. Principal Morrison resigned for health reasons. Mrs. Natterson was placed on leave. Some parents threatened lawsuits, saying their children were traumatized by my live stream. But others sent letters, thank yous, apologies, even gift cards. Brian's father got a job nearby. They moved into an apartment close to us. We walked to school together now. The hallway wasn't hostile anymore. It felt like a place that had changed. I started writing down everything what happened, how people reacted, the things no one said aloud. My teacher asked to read it. Then the local paper called. They wanted to publish my story. My mom hesitated but finally said yes. When it went live, comments poured in. Some called me brave. Others accused us of lying for attention. But Brian smiled when he read it. They're listening now, he said. That was the only win I needed. Just when I thought it was over, a new video surfaced. Catherine had filmed Brian's father shouting once, cutting it to look abusive. It spread fast. People panicked. Some questioned if the wrong parent had been jailed. The media backtracked. A reporter even called me manipulative. My dad deleted my accounts. It's not safe, he said. Brian's smile disappeared. Truth wasn't enough. Lies evolved, shapeshifted. I realized Catherine had planted bombs even after losing the war. The video backlash hit fast. Brian's father was investigated again. He cried, telling me he had no fight left. Brian shut down. I saw him rip the bracelet off his wrist. It doesn't matter anymore, he muttered. I begged my dad to help. He reached out to Sarah Holloway. She had raw footage from the day of that video, proof it was manipulated. We edited it together, posted the truth, and hoped people still cared. Sarah's uncut footage showed Catherine screaming just before Brian's dad raised his voice. The truth wasn't pretty, but it wasn't abuse. We added timestamps, context, and pushed it on every platform. Some called it damage control, others believed us. The case against Brian's father was closed again. But trust had scars. At school, kids whispered differently now. Confused, cautious, Brian stopped speaking in class. I realized truth doesn't erase pain, it just makes survival visible. Brian's therapist suggested a fresh start, new school, new town. He told me at the park, holding the bracelet I'd once worn. I don't want to leave, he said, but I don't want to stay broken. We sat in silence. I handed him a new string, red this time, make one for the next friend. I said, he hugged me tight. We didn't say goodbye, just nodded, like the truth needed no more words to exist. When Brian didn't show up for a week, I asked Mrs. Natterson, she snapped, stay out of grown-up business. The whole class watched me like I'd cursed. My mom took away my phone for texting his dad. At school, the counselor pulled me aside, questioning why I was so obsessed. I wasn't obsessed. I was scared they'd make him disappear. I saw the bracelet again, peeking from my pencil case. I clenched it tighter than ever. The news reported Brian ran away. My mom believed it instantly. He was unstable, she said. But I noticed something odd in the footage. His backpack was missing, the same one he never left behind. That night, I hacked into an old class group chat. Someone posted blurry footage, Brian being shoved into a storage unit. I sent it to Principal Morrison. No response. My hands shook. The truth wasn't just hidden, it was being erased. I printed the footage and slipped it into Mr. Grayson's newspaper. He confronted the principal, but Morrison denied everything. It's doctored, he insisted. My mom dragged me from school, grounding me indefinitely. But later that night, Sarah Holloway messaged me, Catherine's ex-roommate. She had documents, photos, a journal. He's in danger, she said. I copied everything to a USB, taping it inside my shoe. If they wouldn't listen, I'd make them see. No one else would save him. At the community meeting, I stood up, trembling. My parents begged me to sit. This isn't the time, my mom hissed, but I spoke. I showed Sarah's journal, the footage, even Brian's old drawing him inside a dark box. Gasps filled the room. Catherine wasn't there, but her shadow lingered. Some believed me. Others whispered I needed help. I didn't care. For the first time, Brian's voice was louder than their doubts. I wouldn't let it fade. The next morning, police cars lined up at an abandoned lot. I watched from across the street, heart pounding. A small figure emerged, Brian, wrapped in blankets, crying. Catherine was cuffed, screaming about conspiracies. Reporters flooded the scene. My phone buzzed nonstop. My mom cried quietly. My dad looked at me, eyes filled with something new, respect. Brian was safe, but the truth wasn't clean. It was scarred, complicated, and finally, impossible to deny. In the days that followed, the school tried to spin it. Misunderstandings, they called it. But videos spread fast. My live stream hit 50,000 views. People started asking questions. Mrs. Natterson took a sudden leave. Principal Morrison resigned quietly. Kids who once avoided me now nodded in hallways. I wasn't a troublemaker anymore. I was the kid who made the truth louder than the lie. And Brian, he smiled again, this time without fear behind it. Brian moved in with his dad. I visited after school, helping him sort his things. He handed me the bracelet, faded, frayed, still mine. You never stopped believing, he said. His room was small but safe. Pictures lined the wall, none of Catherine. We played video games, laughed at old jokes. I didn't tell him how scared I'd been. He already knew. The bracelet was back on my wrist. This time, I promised I wouldn't take it off. The school launched a healing campaign. Posters showed unity, but I saw fear behind their slogans. I was asked to speak. Only if I kept it positive. I refused. Instead, I printed flyers with Brian's drawing, the one of him trapped. I passed them out silently. Some teachers looked away. Some students thanked me. I didn't need applause. I needed honesty. Healing didn't come from silence. It came from facing the bruises we'd pretended not to see. Mrs. Holloway moved closer, joining local support groups. She brought boxes of documents to my dad, who now helped parents fight custody battles. I watched her speak at meetings, calm but fierce. She smiled at me once, then handed me Brian's old journal. You helped rewrite this, she said. I read the first page. Today, someone believed me. My hands shook. I wasn't just a kid who told the truth. I was part of someone else's survival. One afternoon, Brian and I returned to the swing set where we first talked. He pushed gently, laughing at how small it seemed now. This is where everything started, I said. He nodded. We didn't need more words. The swing creaked like it remembered too. I tied the bracelet to the chain, let it hang there, like a marker. Not of pain but of what we survived. It waved in the wind, a silent monument to truth. My mom still struggles. She apologized once awkwardly, like the words burned her tongue. I just wanted you safe, she said. I didn't know how to answer, but she joined us at a school meeting, sitting beside Mrs. Holloway. Later, she helped pass out flyers. It wasn't a full repair, but it was something. Healing isn't loud. It's a quiet chair moved closer, a page turned. And sometimes it starts with admitting you were wrong out loud. Brian got a dog rescued from a shelter, small and jumpy. He named her Hope. She barked at shadows at first, then curled beside him at night. He said she made the nightmares smaller. We built her a doghouse in his backyard. As we painted it, he said, "You're part of this too." I smiled, wiping sweat from my forehead. Hope wagged her tail. She didn't understand everything, but she knew she was safe. So did we. The town held a vigil for survivors of abuse. I lit a candle with Brian beside me. Principal Morrison didn't attend, neither did Catherine's supporters. But families gathered, holding photos, whispering names. I spoke briefly, thanking those who chose truth over comfort. Brian said nothing, just held my hand. The flame flickered in the breeze, refusing to go out. That night, I dreamed of light small but steady, carried by people who finally dared to see each other. An email arrived from a documentary team. They wanted to share Brian's story. He hesitated, then said, "Only if you're in it too." We filmed at the swing set, the storage unit, even my kitchen table. They asked why I did it. I said, because silence hurts worse. When it aired, my school watched in silence. The principal's office stayed locked, but the classroom was full of nods, and a few tears. The truth had a voice now. Brian made art again. Sketches, this time black and white, raw. One showed a boy in a glass jar, cracked open. Another was two kids holding hands under a storm. He entered them into the school exhibit. One parent complained, but the board let them stay. "He's not broken." I told my mom. She nodded, tears in her eyes. The art wasn't pretty, it was real. And for the first time, real was finally welcome here. On the last day of school, Brian and I carved our initials into the library bench. It wasn't rebellion, it was memory, so they know we were here, he said. Our voices had been whispers. Now, they echoed. I looked at the bench, at the fading swing in the distance, and felt the year settle in my chest. We didn't just survive, we changed something, not everything, but enough, and sometimes enough is everything that matters. After everything, I sat in my room, the bracelet beside my notebook. I traced its threads, remembering every moment. My dad knocked, holding hot cocoa. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. The house felt different, quieter, softer. I looked at the window where rain tapped gently. Brian was safe. I was heard. We weren't the same kids anymore, but we were still kids, and for once, that felt like enough. I opened Brian's journal again. One page read, "I thought no one would ever see me." I underlined it. That sentence stayed with me. At school, kids smiled more. The whispers were fewer. I wasn't a hero. I was just loud when it counted. And maybe that's what being brave meant. Not being fearless, but being louder than the silence trying to swallow someone else. That's what I'd remember most, that, and his smile. When Brian left for Oregon, we hugged tight. He gave me a compass. "So you always know what's right," he said. I watched his truck disappear. The school looked smaller now. My story wasn't over, but that chapter, our chapter, closed with truth, and I'd never forget which direction we chose. At graduation, I tucked the compass into my pocket. Teachers clapped, some parents nodded, my mom cried. I spotted the bracelet tied to the swing. Still there, still waving. We'd left a mark, not carved in stone, but in memory. In truth, I stepped forward, into high school, into whatever came next.